This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net. It's time for Avoid the Maze because life itself is the maze. There's no direct line from where we are to where we're going. The journey twists, turns, and throws obstacles in our way. But at each intersection, we have choices. And when we walk mindfully through life, we can make choices that are the best for us. You don't have to navigate this path alone. There are others like you, staring down the blank walls and wondering which direction to take next. This podcast is a space for shared experiences because sometimes a story you may echo your own, and that moment of connection might be exactly what you need. My guest today is Byron Athene. And Byron, take us on your journey.
Okay, wow. So where to begin? So I'm of Jamaican descent. My family moved over from Jamaica. So moved over to we so they migrated from Jamaica to the north of England in the 60s, I believe. And come from a single parent family. It was me and two brothers. I'm the youngest of three. There's only 1 year apart. So yeah, that obviously presented challenges for our mum. You know, I'd like to think that we are better behaved than we could have been. Ups and downs, sure, but I think we were generally quite well behaved. But it must have been challenging anyway for lots of other reasons. Um, so I developed a stutter when I was around 6 or 7. I believe that my elder brother, third, he developed a stutter. The middle brother, Bernie, I think copied him, and I copied both of them. That's my view because I don't think either of us have any um well sort of like pathological issues that prompted a stutter because we all can speak fluently, but we
Sure.
chose to stutter. So I think it was more of a kind of a mimicry sort of thing. So whereas they seem to grow out of their stutters, I made mine. Well, mine became almost like an integral part of my personality. I I kind of saw myself as a stutterer first, and then anything else after that. And because of that, I had really low self-esteem. I had low self-worth because I figured, well, if I can't even communicate properly, then yeah, that's just yeah, quite kind of quite bad. So yeah, so I kind of grew up with low self-esteem, low self-worth. So I was fairly insular. I kept to myself a lot of the time, even though I did want to be social. I did kind of want to go out and sort of make friends, but it felt like I did that with a almost self-imposed disability because I could talk fluently sometimes, but other times I couldn't. So I developed a stutter when I was 6, but I think it was 8 when that stutter became sort of set in concrete because up until that point I could choose to stutter or not, but something happened when I was 8, and then I just became a stutterer in terms of I wasn't able to control it anymore. So that's what I kind of like carried into adulthood. And so I, yeah, like I said, I was insular, and because of that, maybe I was a bit more introspective than some people. So I was a bit more maybe aware of the inner workings of my mind and stuff. So I started a relationship with someone, and it didn't last long, but I kind of figured we would be together for forever. So even though it lasted only about 3 months, it really broke my heart when it ended, and it felt really bad, like proper agony. But I figured, well, that's just life. I mean, when bad things happen, you're gonna feel bad and stuff. So that was when I was around 2021. I then I my middle brother Bernie, he had just read a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. He recommended it to me, so I read it, and I was hoping it helped me come to terms with my stutter. It didn't really do that, but it did introduce the idea to me that happiness comes from within. And I kind of assumed that happiness was just our emotions were a reflection of what was
Right.
happening as opposed to a self internally generated process. So happiness comes from within. Mind blowing to me. I wasn't into psychology or philosophy up until then, so I hadn't heard anything like that before. So mind blowing. But that made me realize that I was making myself feel bad because of the breakup. So I thought, well, if happiness comes from within, surely unhappiness comes from within as well. That seemed to follow to me. That seemed to make sense. So I asked myself, well, why am I making myself feel bad? Why am I making this challenging situation even worse? So then I was able to regulate my emotions or manage my emotions better by doing a process called positive reframing, where you try to look at the same event from a more positive viewpoint.
Sure.
And I was able to manage my emotions after about 3 months. I was able to manage my emotions much better than I thought I ever could. So I could feel bad about something, or feel a negative emotion, but I could feel a positive emotion straight afterwards. So that prompted the question, if I can feel if I can feel good right after feeling bad, what's the point of feeling bad in the first place? What's the point? What's the point of negative emotions? What's the point of negative emotions? And at that point, because I reduced my negative emotions, I became a much better person because of it. I was much more resourceful. I was able to solve problems easier. I was a better version of myself in almost every single way. And so that did make me really question. So wait, why are the bad emotions there? It seems like we would just be having a more enjoyable, better feeling time if they weren't there. So why are they there? So I asked people, and the answers people gave just didn't really cut it. I didn't, yeah, they, so I started to hear the same 10 reasons over and over again. Like, we need bad to know good, or bad emotions are useful in certain situations, or bad emotions are just a part of life. But my experience disproved those ideas, because I knew I didn't need bad to know good. My bad emotions didn't seem to be useful for me, or more not, they weren't more useful than my better emotions, my positive emotions. I definitely knew that bad emotions weren't an inescapable part of life, because I was able to reframe any event. So yeah, so I carried on searching for the reason why we had bad emotions. I I became a bit frustrated because no one seemed to come up with an answer that made sense to me. It's just I kept hearing the same 10 reasons over and over again. It didn't really make sense. So I thought, well, maybe I'm never gonna find out. Maybe this is gonna be one of life's many mysteries. So I stopped looking. So then I became friends with someone. This is about a year and a half after that point. I became friends with someone. I told her about my emotional control. That was an idea that appealed to her. So she asked me if I can help her emotions. I said I could, but it's taken me about a year and a half to get to where I am, or maybe about 2 years at that stage. It's taken about 2 years. I could show you what I did, but it might take you the same amount of time. She said, well, she wasn't doing anything else, so why not? So I started to help her. I started to help her with her emotions, but it was taking too long. So I thought, well, let me try to find a real reason again, or a more sensible sounding reason. Because if I find that, then maybe I could create some sort of shortcut, so that she doesn't have to go on the precise journey that I did. So again, I asked people why we have negative emotions. Again, I heard reasons that didn't really make sense. Again, I became frustrated that I was never going to find the answer. But then I saw a baby cry, and I thought, there it is. That baby is crying because it wants something to be different. Crying usually prompts someone to swoop in and create the change that the baby wants. And our negative emotions is a remnant of that problem solving mechanic. So we're feeling bad because we needed to feel bad when we were younger, because we didn't have any other tools, we didn't have any other resources, and so it's followed us into adulthood. And so because we haven't been informed about the real reason why we have negative emotions. We've kind of just layered other reasons onto them, like we need bad to know good and stuff. So I stumbled across this truth. Didn't believe it. I thought this can't be true. No, no way can this be true. If this is true, why? I must have asked about over 100 people. Why didn't at least one person say this? Instead of hearing the same 10 reasons over and over again, surely I would have heard more range, and this would have been one of the things I heard, I thought. So I thought it can't be true. And another reason why I thought it can't be true is that if this is true, why would why would I discover it? Like how I kind of pegged myself as maybe average intelligence. So if I can stumble across this potentially life-changing truth, why did the geniuses miss it? Why didn't Newton see it? Why didn't Hawkins see it? Why didn't Einstein see it? How is it all those geniuses missed it, but a boy from South London, Peckham, find it? How is that? How is that possible? So I researched. I tried to poke holes. I tried to find exceptions, and I couldn't. I couldn't. So I came to accept it. So I thought, okay, well then I think this is a truth that a lot of people could benefit from. So I thought about becoming a therapist back then, but I was still stuttering. So I felt like a bit of a fraud saying or believing I could help people with their issues, but I can't even help myself with my issue. So I went into office jobs because I figured that those are the types of jobs that I wouldn't necessarily have to be talking all that much. So that's what I did. So I was working in offices for like decades. I worked for one company for about 23 years. Well, whilst I was working for this company, one of my colleagues left to become a solicitor or a lawyer. And so I realized that oh sorry, I missed a bit. So just before that I unknowingly developed a growth mindset. So growth mindset is the idea that you can pretty much do anything. You aren't born with innate skills. You learn and you develop. Because I grew up with three friends who all they all could draw really well, and so I kept trying every now and again, and I just couldn't draw nearly as well as them. So I I just stuck to writing. So that was my preferred medium of communication, I guess, even over talking verbally, because like I said, verbally talking, I couldn't communicate nearly as well as I wanted to, but when I wrote, I could write as well as I wanted to. So
Right.
that was the yeah, that was a somewhat kind of like sanctuary for me. Um, so I learned how to draw by using an application on a handheld device, and I kind of assumed that I would never be able to draw because I thought it was an innate skill. So when I learned how to draw, I thought, okay, if I can learn how to draw, what else can I learn? I developed a growth mindset. Then a couple of months afterwards, I did training that introduced the actual term growth mindset to me, and it's like a quite famous picture, or I've seen this picture quite often now, where you've got the fixed mindset on the left and a growth mindset on the right. Underneath, there are different attributes of a fixed mindset and growth mindset, and I agreed with all of the growth mindset things. So I was like, oh, I guess I've got a growth mindset. But my colleague leaving our workplace made me realize that even though I believed I had a general growth mindset, I had a fixed mindset about a couple of things, i.e., my speech and my career. So I then wondered, well, since I wasn't entirely the most happy at my job, it's something I just kind of like went to and just
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it was yeah and I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't really enjoy it, so I thought, well, okay, well, what other careers could I entertain? I remember that I wanted to become a therapist years ago. I realized that my stutter didn't necessarily have to be the obstacle I was making it out to be, so I applied for a general counselling course. It was 3 years. The first year was hypnotherapy. The second and third years were just exclusively counselling. The third year of that, I started a coaching course as well. So I qualified at the same time. This is like 2020 now. So I qualified as a counselor and a life coach. And I, even though I had my own ideas in terms of, well, I think this is why we have negative emotions, I figured because I'm a therapist, I wasn't allowed to use my own ideas. So I was just doing the general approaches like CBT or psychodynamic or um, transactional analysis, whatever. But then because I was a coach as well, one of my therapy clients graduated or transitioned to a coaching client. So I was able to use my emotions mastery package there. So if you want to learn how to master your emotions, then you could just do these kind of steps. And so he took to it really well. So I wondered if my other therapy clients or my therapy clients, I wonder if they would also take to it in the same way. So I spoke to my supervisor and asked her, well, am I allowed to do my own stuff? Am I able to? And she said, well, as long as you do it ethically, sure. I was like, oh, great. So yeah, so that was a massive turning point for me because then that enabled me to develop my own approach with this baby theory as one of the core ideas. And yeah, I've helped lots of people. Not everyone accepts it, which is fine. I mean, yeah, people are going to have different views based
Sure.
on their experiences, whatever, and that's absolutely fine. I'm not saying, well, I'm right and you're wrong, but the people who have benefited from it have seemingly really benefited from it. So yeah, um, so what I do then? So I continue training. I continue to develop my approach. I became a clinical supervisor, so I now supervise other therapists. Again, I'm quite careful to not sort of like bludgeon them with my own views and just try to be as supportive as I can in their process. So hopefully I'm not kind of overbearing or whatever. Um, so then I wanted to, there was like a change in the way that therapy was being kind of governed and regulated. This new regulation came in or a new framework came in called scope head, whereas before you had a qualification, you had like your experience. So if someone asked you how experienced you were, you would say, but this scope head um introduce this framework where there are different columns like A, B, and C. A is the sort of the entry level, so everyone's on A, but to be on column B or C, you have to have a certain amount of hours, a certain amount of training, a certain amount of experience. And so I wanted to go on to column B, but I learnt that I didn't have enough like training course credits to do so because I think you needed like 450 hours and all my courses combined up until then was it was just a bit short. I think I had like 380 or something. So I had to look for other courses to make up the shortfall. I found this course which was a research course for a year, so that would have got me over the allocated the amount. So this research course, I was able to then finally, after 30 years or so, I was able to research this baby theory idea that I've had for ages. So and I've only recently submitted a dissertation of it. I've only like recently got it back and I passed and stuff. So after all this time, I'm able to present this theory and show that now it's scientifically proven, not scientific in the stricter sense because it's not been published or peer reviewed yet. But um, so that pretty much brings us up to date now.
You know, what I find interesting is so many of us believe that it's the outside sources that are going to make us happy. And
Oh
that's
God.
how, and we're brought up that way, you know.
Yeah,
If I'm
definitely.
nice to Byron and he's nice back to me, I've achieved it. I'm happy. But if I'm nice to you, and for whatever reason, you're just okay with me, then I might absorb those feelings inside. Those are the bad feelings.
Mm.
Well, part of it is that we don't communicate.
Yeah,
Okay. We don't let people know what's going on inside of us,
mm,
and we make assumptions what's going on
definitely. Yeah,
inside their brains.
yeah.
I remember as a young child, I was a crier. My father could look at me across the room, and if I thought I saw anger on his face, I would
Mm,
just start crying. It's
mm,
my fault. I made him mad.
yeah,
And he would then get mad. How dare I, feel this way? And
yeah.
it became a circle. And we never tried to figure it out until probably when I was a young adult, I said to him, you know, Dad, you have two looks on your face. One that looks mean and nasty, and one that is so loving.
Mm,
And I said, and when I see that mean and nasty face, I think it's about me. And he looked at me and he said, I don't think my face is any different.
mm.
Because he didn't realize his facial expressions were
Yeah,
changing.
yeah.
And it was like, now that makes sense. I probably don't either. You know, my husband told me when he first met me, I smiled all the time. Now he'll say to me, don't you ever smile? It's like, I'm busy, I'm working. What are you looking for? So I think your theory about feelings are so right because it starts when we're an infant. That's our own
Definitely.
communication.
Yep.
And we can't tell you what's wrong when we're crying. You
Mm,
know, you now have to be the scientist to try to figure it out. Are we hungry? Do we need to be held? Are we wet? What is the issue?
mm.
But if we get those responses back and forth from each other, we all can be happy.
Of
But
course.
it's
Yeah,
communication.
yeah,
So
definitely.
how do you tell people who have held back their words for years, now it's time to express them?
Well, I guess I would focus on the reason why they're not expressing them in the first place. And often fear is a common reason for someone not expressing themselves or not being their authentic self. And so it's often a good idea to help them explore, well, what's the source of that fear? What are you fearful? What do you think is going to happen? Because a lot of the time, those fears are completely irrational, completely fantasy based, but because the way the brain works, the fact that we have a fear at all, we make it concrete. We then project it outwards, and because of confirmation bias, where it's proven to us on a daily basis, as opposed to trying to retain a more objective view, where you're more likely to see a more authentic picture of reality. So what's the fear? And then help them see that they have the power to change and help them through the process of making that desired outcome a habit that overwrites the existing habit. I guess that's a general process.
Right. So it really becomes one that we have to sort of go deep inside ourselves, which most of us are afraid of. We
Yep,
don't know
fair
what
again.
we're going to
Yeah,
find.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um, I remember about, well, I keep forgetting how long it's been, but it's a little over 10 years. I went through a very deep depression. I had been pushed out of corporate America. I was doing what I loved, but the culture was killing me, and I knew it
Oh,
was.
sure.
But when I was asked to leave, that was a double whammy. It was
Mm,
like, you're asking me to leave, and look what I do for you, and
mm,
how dare you throw me out on the street? Um, when I realized I was depressed, and it was my son who made me actually look in the mirror and see it,
yeah.
um, I was lucky because I said, I don't want to stay here.
Oh, good.
And I will tell you, a number of the people that I coach have said, how did you do it that quickly? And I
Mm,
said, because I could feel where the hurt was. I
yeah.
felt it in every part of my body and my brain. And where I heard it in my brain, I started hating my husband and son. Knew I loved them, but I was hating them.
Mm,
And when I could sense that, it was like, I need to get out of here. There's a way to get out. And I had a wonderful therapist who said to me, you're going to crawl your way out. Now I wanted to just jump out. And she said, no, you're not going to. I'm not going to make you suffer any longer than you need to.
mm,
But if you jump out, you're going to leave all that baggage there and you're not going to know why you were carrying it. So
yeah.
I want you to throw out one weight at a time.
Yeah.
And believe me, as soon as I did that, it was like, so that's how I can be happier. And she looked at me and she said, yeah, look at all that weight you were carrying. You were
Mm,
still carrying your father's face in
mm,
your backpack. So if you looked at your boss or you looked at your husband or you looked at your son and they weren't smiling and
mm.
you saw an angry face, what did you do? So a growth mindset means that we have to be willing to change.
Definitely. Yeah. And know that change is possible because that's one of the core ideas of a fixed mindset. It's rigid. It's like you can't change, you can't develop, you can't learn, you can't grow. Of
So it's not like when they say you can't um, teach an old dog new tricks. You definitely can. You just have to
course
be
you
patient.
can. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So, how can my listeners find you, reach out to you, learn more about um, a growth mindset? I know there's a lot of other podcasts out there that talk about growth mindset,
Yeah.
but like you said, we all have our own way of dealing with it. And not that we ask our clients to deal with it in our way, but
Mhm.
sometimes if they hear what our way is, they then can say, oh,
Yeah.
but I can do it another way.
Yeah. It's an option. It's an
Yes.
option. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, well, they can go to my website, which is just myname.com. So BYRONATHENE.com. I've done quite a few podcasts now. In fact, I have a friend who has a podcast where I attend once a month. We did quite a few shows. We then got an idea of, well, I suggested to him that we do a a range of topics covering different things, philosophy, psychology, sociology, I guess, even spirituality, covering letters A to Z. So we started that a while ago. We're on, I think, well, we just did I. We're about to do J. So yeah, that's interesting. But I've done quite a few other podcasts as well. I'm about to release a book. I'm releasing my first book on or in December on resilience, which is really exciting because I am able to talk about the baby theory and other ideas within this book under the umbrella of resilience. So that's exciting.
And I love what you said. We all have the ability, but we have to believe that we have the ability. Because for many years, um, and now I can look back at it, I can see there were times where maybe I wasn't depressed, but I certainly was not happy
Sure.
and kept thinking, oh, this is what I get.
Yeah.
And um, when I would spring out of that and find something to get me out of it, I didn't necessarily keep notes about it. And so the next time when it would happen, it would feel like I was starting all over again.
Mm,
But 15 years ago, I decided that I would start journaling so that if I had this same feeling in the future, I could go back and see what caused it the last time.
mm.
And that's been helpful for me. Now,
Oh,
some
good.
of my clients say, no, I don't want to revisit the past. It's your choice. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it helps me because then I look at myself and go, okay, it only took this to get out of it, or it took, you know, a lot to get out of it. Well,
Mm,
how can I reduce that? How can I look at that?
yeah.
And that's that open mindset.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And you mentioned experiencing depression as well. Depression, in some ways, is a challenging issue to deal with because of what it involves. It usually involves like low energy, lack of motivation, a really diminished sense of self, and those are the things that you would use to help yourself out of the issue. So it's really challenging sometimes.
Absolutely. And what I hope our listeners will hear, there is nothing wrong with you if you get depressed. There is something that's causing it, and you want to try to figure that out and move through it and get the help that you need. Sometimes you can help yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be your best friend just sitting there listening. And sometimes it takes a lot more. In
Yeah.
my case, 10 years ago, it took a lot more. I didn't want to get on medication, but I did,
Mm.
and it helped. And I have reduced it significantly over the years. I'm on a small dose now only because I still have that fear of falling back. And
Sure.
so when I take that little bit of medication, I know in the morning, okay, I can handle this. But I'm
Mm.
hoping too that someday I can just not have to do that.
Yeah.
Um, and when that time comes, it'll come. But I
Mm.
don't feel shame. And I'm hoping that our listeners, if you know somebody who really needs some assistance, that you don't judge
Yeah.
because you don't walk in their shoes.
Yeah.
Byron, thank you for joining me today. We
You're
will have
welcome.
all your information in the show notes. So there's no excuse for people not to follow you and to get your book for Christmas. I think that'd be a
Oh yeah.
great
Yes.
idea.
Well, thanks. Thanks. It's really, really, really great being here. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful day now.
Thanks. You too.
Bye bye.